It's called Isunboshi. Isunboshi means the 1-inch boy. It's a story about a kid who's only as big as a finger. He's very tiny. You ready? Okay. Long ago, in another little village in Japan, there was a famine. They were very sad. So sad were the women because they had no children. With their husband they wished and prayed and prayed and wished. And one day, to their surprise and delight, not one, not two, but 3 tiny babies were born. The mothers happily named them each Isunboshi, which meant the 1-inch boy, because they were only as big as a finger. But the boys cried with loud, healthy voices. And after 10 years, the boys had grown no larger. They were teased by their friends at school for being only 1 inch tall. So they came to their parents and asked them a great favor. "Oh, mothers, father, please, may we leave home and travel and learn about the world." This made the mothers and the father very sad. "Oh, Isunboshi, why do you wish to leave us so soon?" But they knew that their children were right. And as the boys sat up, their mothers sewed for them each a teeny tiny kimono. And to each boy, the father gave a sewing needle, which the boys used as swords. And bidding goodbye, their mothers, weeping with one hand, reaching for their children with the other, tearfully said goodbye to their children as they set off on their adventure. "Come back to see us as soon as you can." Gone. The Isunboshis reached a stream that would take them to the capital city. They took rice bowls from their heads, which they wore as hats, placed them into the water, got inside, and used their chopsticks, not for eating, but for rowing, and rowing, and rowing themselves to the capital city. Once they were there, they looked about with wonder and amazement, and came to the most important-looking house and knocked upon its door 3 times, and waited for someone to answer. No sooner had they done this than in came 2 dutiful servants. They slid open the front door of the magnificent home, looked one way, the other, and seeing no one, they closed the door. The Isunboshis again knocked upon the door 3 times, and this time the servants slid the door open quickly to see who was playing tricks on them. And the Isunboshis cried out in their loudest voices, "Excuse me! Excuse me!" The servants looked down far, far, far below and were surprised to see such tiny 1-inch boys. They laughed and called for the ladies of the house to come. Wealthy women, wow, well trained. They slid open the door, looked one way, the other, and then down far, far, far below, and were surprised to see the tiny 1-inch boys. They giggled behind their fans and called for their daughters to come. Lovely young ladies they were, so delicate, well-trained. They slid open the door, looked one way, the other, and then down far, far, far below, and were surprised to see the tiny 1-inch boys. They also giggled behind their fans. The Isunboshis proudly introduced themselves. We are Isunboshi. We have come to study and learn about the world. This made everybody laugh. The daughter said, first, Isunboshi, you must learn to read and write before you learn about the world. And the boys agreed with them, bowing deeply, and stayed with them for the next 10 years. Until it was time to go to Kiyomitsu Temple to worship. Mothers sliding down from the side, servants taking their place, and the Isunboshis invited their parents, their father and mothers, who came excitedly from far away to join them. But as they reached the temple grounds, everyone was surprised, for a tremendous earthquake began to shake the ground. It shook them this way, and that way, and this way, and that way, and this way, until they realized it was not an earthquake at all, but from the mountains was coming a huge red demon! Everyone but the Isunboshis passed out one by one, so terrified from the creature. And the Isunboshis cried out in their loudest voice ever, shaking their fists, "You big demon! You can't get away with this!" The demon was surprised to hear the tiny little voices. It looked one way, the other, then down far, far, far below, and was surprised to see such tiny 1-inch boys. It let out an enormous laugh, and launching great claws, reaching far down below, it picked up the little tiny Isunboshis, dangling them high in the air above their gaping mouths, and in one gulp swallowed them whole.
Oops.
No. Poor Isunboshis. Inside the monster's stomach they sat up, remembering the sewing needle given to them by their father. They withdrew the needle from its sheath, and from inside the monster's stomach began to slash and poke and stab, working their way up its body until they popped out of its nose, blinded it in the eyes, and the life in the demon was fading. And was out. Everyone recovered one by one, so happy to see that the demon had been defeated. And as the girls stood, holding up what the demon had left behind, its magic mallet, capable of granting wishes, they heaved them high into the air, crying out, "Let Isunboshi no longer be 1-inch tall." And the Isunboshis, who until that moment had only been as big as a finger, suddenly began to grow. And grow. And grow into fully grown, strong, handsome samurai.
Ooh.
The girls giggled from behind their fans, so happy to see such rescuers, and the parents all bowed deeply, giving permission for them to marry. And they did, living happily ever after. Or so they thought! The end.
Wow.